Greetings, my Israelite brothers and sisters, heirs, joint heirs, adopted, grafted, not here to share the word with. There was something on my phone that it was looking for a Wi-Fi connection because I had the Wi-Fi on, so I apologize for that. So I just wanted to talk about this subject. It's called take thy commandments and bind them about thy neck. How you doing, Ricky? How you doing, Kelly? How you doing, Tia? And it says, take the commandments and bind them about thy neck. And of course, it also should say, write them upon the table of thy heart. How you doing, Miss B? What does that mean? This is really a phrase that should be expounded upon. The commandments of God is what we live by. It's the lens in which we look at everything with. These glasses are a lens. I get to the point sometimes that, how you doing, Charles? Sometimes I can't read without my glasses. If I start to look at the chats over a few minutes, then things get a little blurry unless I have my glasses on. While I'm here, let me just say, Miss B, Charles, Tobiah, Kelly, Ricky, Tia, there's several others in here, Quiana. So, hello. So, this lens is where I get my best clarity at. Okay, speaking of lens, let me wipe off my glass here because it looks a little blurry there. Okay, all right, that's better. Now, take the commandments and bind them about thy neck. Write them upon the table of thy heart. And it doesn't mean this heart, it means this heart. Why do we do that? Because, and it's not just the commandments, it's all of the law, statutes, and judgments of God. Why do we do that? Because the decisions that we make, the reactions that we make, our responses should be predicated based upon the lens in which our culture is. We are a royal priesthood, a chosen generation. So we can respond to things different ways. The way we talk to our children, the way we interact with our spouses, the way we settle disputes among each other. It should be based upon the commandments that are bound about your neck, written upon the table of your heart. For instance, the Bible says, dare any of you having an ought against your brother to take them to a court. Okay, how you doing, Rodney? Thank you for letting people know that. You're not even supposed to take your brother or your sister who is in the way, when I mean by in the way, that is a part of the kingdom of the Most High. You're not supposed to take them to court at all, at all. Not supposed to take them to court. You should be able to sit down with one another and have a discussion and come up with a resolution based upon that's fair and equitable. And you can only do that when the commandments are bound about thy neck and written upon the table of thine heart. It's the only way you can do it. That's how important that is. So when we're teaching Black history this month, and you know, that's what this school system does. They want everybody to know about Black history. I encourage you to tell your children about Israel, who Israel is, what the lifestyle of Israel is, what we do, who we are, how we are a people with a law. We have a culture. we have a way of life that is quite different from everybody else. We do. We do. Some people don't have enough integrity, right and wrong, with a black rope and gavel. Yeah, they don't. So you can't even take a matter there, because even today, judges are not even trusted. So this is why people in some states have created a law in which a judge has to stay within certain parameters when deciding the fate of your life. You know? And I give you an example, because a lot of people don't understand this. And, you know, whenever I share something with you biblically, I got to bring something social into it. Okay? I give you an example. Back when there was a war on crime, there were laws that were enacted that specifically stated that if you got caught with crack cocaine, specifically crack, which was about this big, it was a mandatory sentence. Now that mandatory sentence varied across the country. In some cases, it was a mandatory up to 10 years in jail. Mandatory. So once you were found guilty, because it was a mandatory sentence that was based upon law, the judge couldn't say, well, you know, this is your first time or your second time, and you know, you didn't hurt anybody, you didn't steal from it, you didn't use a gun to rob somebody, but you just got a habit. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put you in rehab. The judges had no latitude when it came to the war on crime that was implemented in the 80s and the 90s by the Democratic Party. And that's who did it, by the way. That's who did it. Now, you know, today in the Northeast, Maine, Maryland, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, all up in the New England states, you got kids that are dying every day. And they're robbing and they're doing things to get the opioids, okay? And nobody has put a war on that to pass legislation to say, if you got caught, we're going to put you a mandatory jail sentence. Nope, not at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We have a health epidemic. Whereas in the 80s and 90s, when crack was hitting the street, we had a crime epidemic. You see, same thing. It was a substance abuse. It was a substance abuse. So people are not going to make decisions through the lens of the commandments that are bound about their neck. They can't be fair. It's not a part of our system to look at things from a judicial justice way. Not at all. So when we have the commandments bound about our neck, we try to judge and react righteously. And the commandments and the laws and the statutes help you do things righteously. Okay? Righteously. Even against your enemies, you know how to do things righteously. Because even the Bible says, love your enemy, to do what you do. Remember, there were some soldiers, there was an army that came against Israel, and the Lord blinded them. And when they blinded them, the children of Israel were told, don't kill them, just go down and get them. They took them in their blindness and fed them. Wow. What did you think that enemy? Read the story sometimes. The enemy at that time became an ally. So, because they were an ally. So, because they realized that they were wrong and what could have happened. Um, so we got people running. We got people running for pre- presidential election. Presidential election. People, and I'm going to tell you how I feel about it from a biblical perspective. I'm going to tell you how I feel about it. I'm going to tell you how and I don't get into political, Democrat, Republican, independent. I'm just going to tell you how I actually feel about it. Whatever party, people, whatever, I got a different party. It's in the scriptures. But let me just say this. I have a problem when somebody of color wants to run and they're asked, what is going to be your policy for people of color? And they say, well, first of all, we want to make it clear that we want to be the president for America. Two people said that. A man and woman running of color. I don't have to say the name. I'm just telling you what the club, the Breakfast Club. I watched it because they were on show, and I wanted to see, and I knew that they were going to be asked the tough questions. What is your policy for the African Americans? And they said, well, one person laughed, and the other person danced around it. And let me just say this. Time out. If you vote for somebody because they are of a particular color, then you're wrong. You're wrong. Okay? Because this is what happened with Obama when he got reelected the second time. He enacted policies that were totally against having the commandments bind about your neck and written upon the table of your heart. He had an agenda that was totally against biblical principles, totally against it. Okay, and I'll leave it there. You read the policies, you do your homework. But what I'm saying is, people, if you voted for him because, then that just shows you what type of mistake you can be making. Okay, you have to know what you're doing. Now, let me say this. I watched because I wanted to see what their reaction was going to be, and they danced. Well, you know what I say? Time out. You don't get support. I don't vote. But somebody may. But they can't get no support. If you can't say what your political agenda is going to be, if you can't even say something like, well, first of all, I think that the criminal justice system needs to be reformed. Anybody in politics ought to know that the criminal justice system needs to be reformed. And reformed how? There are laws, policies, and procedures that are enacted that have an adverse impact on one group of people, and that's minorities. Okay? It's just that simple. If you can't see that there's a law that for crack cocaine as a health addiction that puts people into jail, and there's another law that has a health crisis that is not a crime and it puts nobody in jail, something's wrong with the system. Something's wrong with the system. Because whenever you can put somebody in jail for a small piece of crack, and then somebody else who can afford powder cocaine, which weighs way more in grams than a little rock of cocaine, and they get 1 year, 2 years, 3 years fines for a big bag of cocaine that can make a bunch of little bitty rocks. But because the users for the powder and the users for the rock are different, they have different ethnic backgrounds. And you enact a law for less powder for a smaller amount of gram, then I'm going to say, wow, wow. So we got a problem. We got a problem. So don't vote for somebody because they're a particular color. I mean, that's like crazy. That's crazy. I'm not going to vote at all, but if you're going to vote, don't do that. How you doing, John? John said, I just saw a documentary where pimps are using crack's arrest to find workers. Wow. You know, there's a lot of documentaries regarding the way the crack addiction epidemic hit America and how America handled it. It was appalling the way it was handled. It really was, compared to the way opioids are. And I don't want to see nobody's family member addicted to anything. It's so bad in Maine, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut. In one small town, it's not a small town, it's up in the New England states. The police chief, who's also over the fire department, and they said 80% of our calls is dealing with opioid related incidents. And they had a morgue where they had so many people who were college students or students and people traveling into the area to buy the opioids and that were overdosing, who had no identity. They don't know who they are. And they got them in the morgue. And they got so many people that they had to rent these sort of like trailers that were like refrigerated. And they got bodies in there just waiting for somebody to come and identify them. That's how bad the epidemic is. And Trump knows. Trump knows it's coming across the borders. He knows. He knows it's an epidemic. Drama Queen says Pennsylvania and West Virginia are the worst. And it's because it's sweeping across the country. It really is. It really is. At West Virginia, it's now getting down into the Midwest states. But that's where it really was a big epidemic. Whenever you see these commercials on TV and they say, hey, and it's like a health commercial. Do you know someone that is on addiction and yada, 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 yada? Call this number. We can help. That is the answer, or that should have been the same answer for crack cocaine. Same answer. And did you not know people had medical insurance during the crack epidemic? But the insurance companies didn't jump up and say, well, you know, it's covered under the insurance. Same insurance, same insurance, same insurance plan. There are people who work as police officers, postal workers, firefighters, teachers, whoever. They have insurance. When their children get on opioids, the health costs have hit a market high in expenses that's causing the health cost to go up because of the cost for rehabilitation. Whereas during the crack epidemic, it never got put on the books. The answer was jail. That's why Joe Biden, who's running for president, a few weeks ago, got on TV and said, I want to apologize for the policies that we passed for the war on crime. Hillary said the same thing. Hillary said the same thing. Well, you know, I want to apologize. Now, why are they saying that? Because they know you have a smarter group coming out of college. This generation that's in high school and college now, they read, they study. It's the world of information. And they know statistics. And they see what's happening. And they see what the Republicans are doing with the opioids. And they're seeing what the Democrats did with the crack movement. These kids are not stupid. That's why they have a group of kids called Blexit, Blexit. They are a group of college students who are the millennials, who are African American and minorities. And they're saying, we are Blexiting. We are exiting the Democratic Party. We are conservatives. That's who we are. We're registered independents. And we will talk to Trump. We will talk to anybody that can articulate what are they going to do for the minorities and immigrants. What are you going to do for those that are in this group that knows? That's what they're saying. And so the Democrat, so what am I saying? I don't have to be a prophet to tell you that Donald Trump is going to win the election in 2020 because the Democrats are in trouble because of their past sins. Your sins will not be forgiven for what you've done to certain groups and your war on crime. These kids are not going to forget it. Their parents may overlook it. They may not understand why you did what you did, how strategically you enacted a law that had an adverse impact just on Black, Latinos, and other minorities that are in the country. These kids are reading that. They saw who did it. They saw who it had an impact on. They saw that it was a target. It wasn't it was a war. And they see what you do now when the situation has flipped on the other side of the fence. Now it's a health crisis. Same thing. Kids are still stealing, taking TVs out of the houses, taking their heirlooms that families have, going to go buy those opioids. Call them painkillers. Call them, oh, it's because of painkillers. Come on. So there's an issue. There's an issue. In America, America's conflict is so open now that even the media looks stupid. CNN looks stupid. I used to have some respect for CNN. They look stupid. They don't even give all of the information. Fox News, I expect that of them. I really do. I really do. But both of those networks one is far to the right and the other one is far to the left. Nobody gives you clear-cut, genuine news. Maybe ABC does, maybe MSNBC, I don't know. But these other ones, I get some popcorn and I laugh at what these people say. Because you can flip through the channel. What I do sometimes, I have the TV on Fox, and then you know how you can hit previous channel, and it goes back to the previous channel on cable, goes back to CNN. I flip between the both of them. I really do. And I'm just laughing at the perspective, the lens. Where's my glasses? The lens that they are making statements and comments. Nobody is doing it from the perspective of having the commandments bind about your neck, written upon the tables of your heart. There's nobody doing that. There's no news reporting doing that. Nobody tells the truth from the perspective that the commandments are bind about thy neck, written upon the table of thine heart. When you give an analysis on anything, it's always better to come from a source that has the commandments bind about their neck and written upon the table of their heart, because the analysis is going to be fair and equitable. Laws and decisions that are passed are going to be fair and equitable. And that's not going to happen until the Messiah returns, sits on the seat of David, and there will be one law, one God. That's it. One law, one God. That's it. If you don't like the law, guess what? You done. Ain't no negotiating. There's no, here's the law, and it needs to pass before Congress, and then it's got to go to the Senate, it's got to go to the House, and the president can veto it. No, no, that's not going to happen in the kingdom. There's one law, and I got news for you, and I'm going to end on this. If you got problems taking the commandments of God and binding them about your neck and writing them upon the table of your heart right now, if you got a problem doing it right now, if you try to find an excuse for not doing it right now, if you try to read the scriptures and find a way out of it, how can I get my way out of this? Does it take all of that? If you're doing that now, the kingdom is no place for you. It's no place for you. Because we already know what laws, statutes, and judgments are going to be in the kingdom, according to Zechariah, the 14th chapter, when he says, in that day there should be one law and one Lord, and his name one. I already know what the law is. Most of you all know what the law is. It's not going to be no Christmas and Easter and bunny rabbits and things that we add and intertwine into pagan idolatry. That's not going to be there in the kingdom. Drama Queen says they are supposed to be wicked and corrupt at this time though. Well, no. Maybe I'm coming in at a different thing, so I won't even respond to that. Because I don't think you're talking about the time of during the kingdom. Rick says Joe Biden and all of them are apologizing for votes. That's it. That's it, Ricky. That's the only reason why. Hillary called our people super predators. Yeah, it's too late now because people are smart. Now you want to apologize. CNN is Democratic and Fox is Republican. Thank you, T. These kids aren't stupid. Many are very well read on the issues. The Dems are hypocrites. I remember I was in my 20s when the HRC labeled us as super predators. She and the DNC get no pass, absolutely. And that's why Drama Queen has said they are supposed to be wicked and corrupt at this time also. Shalom, Edwards family. How can you get the media to recognize the commandments when the ministry of this nation is not? Well, you know, people know. That's why they apologize. One thing about the commandments of God and the Bible, because we are a Christian nation whose hands, we put our hands on the Bible every time we take an oath. They know what's in that Bible. The judges in the Supreme Court, they know what's on that Bible. They really do. They know their Bible. They're required. Just so you know, the Supreme Court justices, they are required to know the scriptures and the Quran. And the Quran, its laws are not different from that which is written in the scripture. So they know what the law is. In fact, our whole constitution, judicial system is based upon the Bible. Remember when Moses, his father-in-law Jethro came to him and said, listen, son-in-law, you can't do all of this by yourself. Why don't you have a smaller court, have a smaller group deal with certain issues? And then if they can't handle it, then create another court or judges above them. And what matters they can't handle, create another tier above them. And then whatever matters that they can't handle, then let them bring the weightier matters to you. That is our judicial system today. If you don't like something, you take it to the court. If you don't like it, you take it to the district court of appeals. If you don't like what they say, you take it to the state court of appeals. If you don't like it, then you can take it to the Supreme Court of Appeals. The issue is whatever the Supreme Court says, that's the way it is. So our system is based off the way the Bible is. Our laws. There used to be a law. There are some laws on the books that says that you're not even supposed to commit adultery. There's laws in the book in some states right now that says sodomy is a crime. I'm telling you, It's in some states. In fact, it's in a lot of the states. They're just laying on the books. But those are laws that are not enforced, and they're called laws that are on the books. They're just on the books. Nobody took them off the books. They're just on the books. They're just not enforced. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Perjury is thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. So yeah, these people know the law. They just refuse to do it from a judicial perspective of being honest about it. They can't be honest about it because their hearts is not honest about it. Why? Because he says, take the commandments, write them upon the table of thine heart, so that you should find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. When you have the commandments, you would deal righteously. And if you deal unrighteously, when the master returns, he would deal with everybody that has been an unrighteous judge. Peace, shalom, and that's the whole heart of the matter. Love you all.